Good evening. My name is Tammy Neal. We'll be getting started here in just a few minutes. In about 5 minutes, we'll get started. I always like to start the broadcast a little early, but we'll jump in and get started here in about 5 minutes. Thank you for joining us. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tammy Neal. I'm a Google certified trainer in North Florida, up where there's no palm trees. And tonight we're going to be walking through how to get started with AutoCrat. It is an add-on for Google Sheets, but a lot of us pair it with our Google Forms as well, since Forms can send their data into Sheets. So we utilize it to do a mail merge. So that's basically what AutoCrat is. It's one of the more powerful mail merges available to us in the Google family. So tonight I'm going to be doing a lot of screen sharing. You're not going to see me a whole lot, but you will hear me. I have the chat box active and open from the YouTube link. So if you have questions, don't hesitate, jump in there. Because if I'm going too fast or if you need me to show you something again, I'll be more than happy to stop and do that. I've had a lot of people ask me about AutoCrat, and so I just wanted to make sure that I provided an opportunity on its own. So I thought that it was that important that it have its own time for a training session. So let's go ahead and get started with the screen share. And so for those of you that have been with me for the last couple of days, you will recognize this form. This is the form that we've been using. We've gotten some responses from it. These responses are recorded in the sheet. So when I open it up, it's going to come to right here. So this is how Forms gets connected with AutoCrat, excuse me. It's through the sheet. So this is an add-on for the Google Sheet. Now, there's a couple of things you need to do before you do your add-on, and that is decide, well, you can go ahead and add your add-ons. You can go right up here to add-ons and go into Get Add-ons, and you can search for AutoCrat, and it will come up looking like this. This is AutoCrat, okay, with this lovely little robot. And since I already have it, it's called Manage. If you didn't have it, you would see a view or an ad in there, and you would be able to do that. So we're going to sit here. We're going to get here and use this. So, but before we do, we need to figure out how we want our document to look. One of the great things about AutoCrat is it uses each one of these column headings as the tags for the mail merge. So I've created a couple of different mail merge templates that we can use, and I'll go through tonight setting both of those up, because you can have more than one template attached to a Google Sheet, which is really valuable. So the first one that I'm using is just a basic Google Doc, and I'm going to pull this one over to the side here so that we can compare it to our sheet. So here's our sheet, and here's our Google Doc template. Notice that the tags have the left and right angle brackets, also known as the greater thans and less than symbols. So you have to have a double angle bracket on each end for the computer, for the system to recognize it as a tag. So that tag, in this case, email address, matches this column right here. Exactly. The spaces inside these angle brackets have to be identical to this. If this was a lowercase e and an uppercase e, it would not match. And then there's some other things you would have to do to make those happen. Now, one of the great things that AutoCrat has done is that it's allowed you to go in and tag something that looks like a tag in one thing with a matching tag in the other. They don't have to be identical anymore, but if they are identical, things run just so much easier. So each time it runs across a line in our Google Sheet, it's going to take the next email address and redo this based on the corresponding information that goes with it. I have replaced some of the some friends that came in and did the form for me earlier, and I replaced their email addresses just so that they wouldn't get all the samples that we're going to be running tonight. Okay, so I have the email address, I have first name, there's a little space between there, and then last name. And these tags are coming straight from, in fact, you can copy and paste and then put the angle brackets around if you need to. Okay, the timestamp is from right here. Class period is from right here. Score is right here. And it's okay that this class period tag wrapped around. It's okay because it still sees it as one tag because of the angle brackets. Okay, so You can insert graphics. I did this beautiful little thumbs up smiley face. You can do all kinds of things in a Google Doc to set up your template. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring this one back over here and maximize that. So once I've got a template ready to go, then I'm ready to run my add-on for AutoCrat. Now I'll come back later on in January and do some of these sessions, but right now we're just going to do AutoCrat. So it's going to do its thing and work and start running. And I don't have any merge jobs set up, so I'm going to create a new job. Okay, and you have to name your job. So I want you to make sure that you name your job something that will mean something to you, so that when you come back to look at this later, you'll know what it is that you're doing. So I'm going to call this practice 2 letter, because I'm going to use the letter template. I'm going to click next. Now it's going to ask me to choose this, and now we can choose Google Slides, which we'll do that in a little bit here. But I'm going to choose my form, my template from my drive. Okay, and there's my practice 2 template. I'm going to select that and click next. See, I wanted to wait for it to pop up here. You always want to make sure that all your stuff is populating correctly. So this says the merge tab, form response 1, because remember when we were doing Google Forms, you can have more than one tab in a Google Sheet, in a workbook. And so therefore you can have more, you could be using more than one merge tab there. Header row is the first row. My first data row is row 2. So if I had a lot of stuff up here and I didn't start until row 6, I could come right here and tell it my first data row was row 6. Okay, it's asking me to map these things. So I'm mapping my email address to email address, first name to first name, last name to last name. Notice these are the tags that it found in my template. Timestamp, class period, score. So since everything matches, I'm just going to click next. Okay, and it's going to create files. I have to name each specific file. So I'm going to call it practice 2 letter 4, and then I can use my tags and then here's really cool. This little blue bar right here opens and shows me all my tags. So I can copy and paste the tag exactly the way it is. I don't have to remember how to space it or anything. And that's really cool. I can decide whether I'm going to create these letters as Google Docs or as PDFs. Okay, it's my choice. I'm going to do PDFs and then output as multiple output mode or single output mode. Multiple output mode means that they're all together in one large PDF file. Single output mode means that it breaks it. It adds page breaks. Okay. So do I want page breaks between data rows? Yes. Actually, I have this backwards, folks. Multiple output mode means multiple files are created. Single output mode means there's a single file created. And I always get those two confused. So I want page breaks between data rows, and I'm going to click next. Choose the destination for the folder. So I created a folder earlier so that all of my practices will go into the same folder. And I called it Practice 2 AutoCrat. I'm going to select that. Now I can have these go into both folders if I needed to, but I don't need them to go into this one. So I'm just going to click remove. And so now everything's going to go into Practice 2 AutoCrat. And I'm going to click next. Add dynamic folder reference, and this is optional. If I want the folder, a link to the folder that they're in to also be in my spreadsheet, I can add that reference here if I wish to. And then I would select a column that would contain that particular folder reference. I'm not worried about that right this minute. Merge condition. We'll add a condition. Anytime my timestamp is not null. In other words, if there's something in this timestamp, I want to run this mail merge. Okay? So, if I want it to only run when this is empty, then there would be no data there for it to run on. So just be aware. But I could choose anything if first name is not empty. Okay? But generally speaking, timestamp is what I use. But you may use whatever you wish. Okay, so next, do I want to share the document? If I want to share the document, it tells me, since I said earlier I wanted to create a PDF, I don't have an option. Do I want to allow them to reshare? Yes or no? That's my option. Send from a generic no reply email. Depends on how many I'm sending to and what the purpose is. So sometimes I don't want them to reply, and sometimes I do. Okay? And who is it to? Okay? So tags are not supported for a single output mode. So in other words, I can't send the big document to everyone. But if I had chosen multiple output mode, I could come right back in here and click this and put it right there. And it would send it to the email addresses that each one goes to. But I don't want to do that this time. So this time I'm just going to send it to myself. And if I want to copy it to my principal, I can CC him or her right there. I can blind CC to my department chair if I needed to. I could tell them who to reply to. And here I type the subject. Practice to letter. And I can type an HTML down here. Okay, and again, since I am doing single output mode all in one file, I can't use tags here, but I can write any text that I want to in my email. Thank you for all you have done. So, and again, I have the chat open, so if you have questions, please don't hesitate to jump in the chat, and I will be more than happy to show and explain whatever it is I can show and explain at this point. So I'm going to click Next here. Do I want to run on a form trigger? In other words, do I want something in this form to trigger this to run automatically? Yes, you always have to enable triggers to run. That allows AutoCrat to check your form, your spreadsheet, and it's going to update some triggers. And do I want it to run on a time trigger? So if I wanted it to run every hour, once every 24 hours, once every 6 hours, I could choose a specific time for my mail merge to take place. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save that. And it's doing its job in the background. Now, in order to run the job the first time, since nobody's answered the form since this started, these were already there. I need to come in and run the job. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to run the job. And we're going to see some changes start to happen right down here in this column. Our merge sequence has started. And it's telling us that it's creating the letters. We see these things starting to happen. And as we slide down, We see all the links and everything that are happening. And it tells us that this has been done. So I'm going to come over here to my training documents, and I'm going to open Practice 2 folder for AutoCrat. And there's my letter that I wrote. And I'm going to open this and show you how this is formatted. Okay. So here's our first one. And then we had a page break between each one. So it's merged and created individuals all in one document because we had a single output mode. Okay. Okay, so there's that. So I do not need to keep that open. So I'm going to come back over here, and I'm going to create a new job. Because I've also created a certificate with some graphics and some text and 2 tags. One that says first name and one says last name. I easily could have had a tag that had the date that they completed the assignment on as well. So we're going to use this to run another merge over here, and we're going to call this Practice 2 Certificates. And we're going to click Next. I'm going to choose a template, and I've already practiced with this one, so I can use this one again because I've already used it once. I can use them over and over and over again, which is so awesome. Okay, so Practice 2 Certificate is the current selected template. I'm going to click Next. Merge responses from Form 1 responses. This matches my tab. Header row, first data row. First name goes to first name, last name goes to last name. Notice I didn't have to use everything in my form, in my spreadsheet. I could just use the names. Click Next. And in this case, I'm going to do multiple output. So I'm going to choose first name, paste, last name. I'm going to put a space and then paste, and then space, certificate. What type? I'm going to have these as PDFs as well. Multiple output mode is going to be classic mode because I want individual PDFs. Choose a destination folder. I'm going to choose the same folder that I chose the last time, although I didn't have to. I could choose a completely new one. But notice there's no place here to create that folder. That folder has to be created before you get to this spot. Okay, so my AutoCrat 2 practice is chosen. Next. I'm not worried about a dynamic folder reference because I know all of them are going into that folder. Let's see. Merge condition. When the timestamp is not null, and I'm going to click Next. Do I want to share the docs? Yes, I'm going to share them as PDFs. Allow them to reshare? Sure. Send from a generic no reply address? Yep. 2. And here I'm going to come in here, choose my tag, and paste. In my subject, here is your, no, actually, this one, put the word certificate. Here is your for Practice 2. Congratulations. And this is going to be in the body of the email that goes out. Next. Yes, I'm going to run the form on a form trigger. That means every time a new row is added and that form is submitted, this is going to run this. It connects that form to the spreadsheet. I don't need to run on a time trigger, but I can. I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And it's cleaning some things up. And And again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to put it in the live chat. So now I have 2 existing jobs on this one spreadsheet. So I'm going to go ahead and run certificates. And again, I don't have to run it. I can let it run the next time the form is submitted. And the sequence is starting, and you'll notice that here, practice 2 certificates. It just added it to the very end, and it keeps adding rows that tells me when it was started. It tells me 10 rows will be merged, which is good because I have 10 rows of data. And notice that they are Trainer 1, which was the name of this person. Trainer 1 certificate is right there. And because it is a Google slide, it takes a little more effort. These will run slowly. So just be aware of that. Or more slowly, just be aware of that. And so we can come over here and Trainer 1 certificate, Trainer 2 certificate. These are starting to populate into our folder, so we can look at those once they've populated our folder. And there's our certificate. So you don't have to be here on this sheet now once the job is running. This will continue to work in the background, and you will continue to see these populate here as it goes down the form. Okay, but it is a little slower to merge to a slide than it is to a document, because they've been doing the documents a lot longer. Also, while you're running this, you don't want to make changes to your template. So I would not come in here to practice 2 and start making changes here. I would leave this alone until after this AutoCrat has run. So you'll notice that we're at 5 now. And I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to make sure my cells are right. Because all this data right here was rolling over, and it looked like we weren't doing what we were needing to do. So we're almost done. 4 more to go. And again, we can come over here, and we see all of our certificates starting to jump in. And I will say, I think the most difficult part of AutoCrat really is building your template and making sure that these tags match what's here in your spreadsheet. But even AutoCrat, as you saw, was able to match the tags that were in my document with the tags that are in my spreadsheet. So that is something that AutoCrat started doing a couple of years ago, and it really made things so much easier. But I wanted to show you one more thing with Google Slides before we take off tonight. And like I said, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to put it in the chat or email me. I will put my email address in the chat. So my email is tammygneal@gmail.com. And now it's running everything, it's cleaning it all up. And I just close my AutoCrat when I'm done. So everybody's certificates have been created. But one thing I wanted to show you, if you wanted to create something that you were then going to print out, you can come into File, Page Setup. And a lot of people don't realize you can do this with Google Slides. This really turns this into something very similar to Publisher. You can come in here to Custom and set the size of your page to be the size of a page and instead of the size of a screen. And so that allows you to create something that's automatically designed for an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, so that when you go to print it, it's not, sometimes you see it printed and there's this, it's all up in one corner. By changing the page size before you do your mail merge, before you run AutoCrat, it'll all be the right size so that when you go to print these out, they'll be beautifully centered on your page. Okay, so I'm going to stop screen sharing. And here I am back again. See, I didn't leave. So I hope that this has been a helpful tool for you to learn about tonight. Like I said, if you have any questions, I'm around, not going anywhere, and more than happy to help. Just reach out, TammyGNeil@gmail.com or TG_Neil on Twitter. I'm always connected to social media, so please don't hesitate. I hope this has been enjoyable for you. I hope it's been informative. I definitely have enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the new year. Good night, everybody.